Here we are. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Clean Pin episode part 2, rather, of Clean Pin. I thought I would be able to kind of get everything in one shot. Was not the case. So wanted to break it up and give you a second part here. Continuing with the news. And check it out, obviously, part 1. We spoke about, Fyter Fest there, Chris Jericho's proclamation of his match with Orange Cassidy, Tammy Sytch. We talked about, the IC title, the U.S. title, rather. And, opening up this part 2 here, kind of Tommaso Ciampa, Tommaso Masso, my buddy old pal. He mentioned, kind of did an Instagram post, Instagram story, about the fact of how, 2018 was like the greatest year for him. In a nutshell, when he realizes that everything is at a high, everything is highs and lows. But, he mentioned that he feels now, in 2020, here we are, that, being that he hasn't been on NXT tapings for a couple of weeks, for the first time, he feels like creative really has nothing for him. Now, you have to be careful sometimes when you're on Instagram and you are on, Twitter. Sometimes things are thrown out there just to kind of float things out for a potential storyline. Kind of see if it sticks, see if there's buzz behind it, see what the reaction will be. So, you get the reaction, you get the impression that Ciampa is kind of like down on his luck, depressed, and really feels, dejected. This could be very well a storyline. It could be, both. Could be true. Could be true. It could be false. Maybe he's not feeling that way. The best storylines are the storylines that have a little bit of reality in them. When you look at Ciampa, 2018, he was the man. He was the man. 2018, rather. 2019, 2020 are in a lull. But he has, for the most part, been on TV. Now, I don't know if people still consider, there's a little, it's a little blurry now whether NXT is, or if you consider that the minor leagues, the major leagues, it's the same difference. Is NXT, you might even argue, better than Raw or SmackDown. Whatever the case may be, that's another subject matter. But he ruled NXT for quite some time. Him and his storyline with Gargano, he has been, even before that, as a whole, one of the legends of NXT. So it's really hard to feel bad for Tommaso. You can't be on there. You have to kind of make room, for other people to shine. You need to there are more characters besides Tommaso. Hey, but I could see, Tommaso to a point too, and everyone's got to look out for number one. So, but at the end of the day, I from interviews that you hear, you get nothing but the impression that he is one of the leaders in NXT. And I don't think that a guy like Tommaso Ciampa is going to cause you grief if he's not on TV all the time. That's just going to make him more hungrier. Make him make his bite that much bigger when he does come back. If that makes sense to you guys. So I don't know really what to make. It could be just a little teaser, just to kind of see, if it sticks, if it's storyline, it could be part reality. But I think, Ciampa is one of the leaders and someone that you could rely on. And I don't think you have to worry about him for in the long haul, in the long run. The anniversary this past week of the Women's Revolution pay-per-view. The Women's Revolution pay-per-view. And we look at it now, years later, and the Women's Revolution kind of hasn't really panned out. Or maybe, it was on everyone's mind when that pay-per-view was coming out. We look at what happened in WrestleMania a little while back, 2 years ago, when it was Ronda Rousey, Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch. It was their show. And other women's characters got lost in the shuffle. Asuka got lost. She recovered just by the skin of her teeth. Thanks in part to being the MVP of during that COVID tapings. Asuka was everywhere you looked at. But before then, man, Asuka was down in the dumps. Down in the dumps. So, whatever revolution there was, whatever characters you had at that point, to me anyway, now, years later, it's gone. It's wiped away. You sacrificed that revolution or evolution during WrestleMania. Ronda Rousey, Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair. The women's revolution really was about the four horsewomen. That's what the women's evolution was. The four horsewomen. So yeah, and these women, they have main evented house shows, pay-per-views. They've done that, but everything that you had built, or we were building on, there was even talk of having a women's program, a show just for the woman. And so much so, there was even more, and people were feeling the evolution, women's evolution. They introduced a tag title. And now that tag title, it all's fine and dandy. When it first came out, it seemed like a good idea. But then you put the strap on the Iconics, and you think to yourself, wow, this division, this women division, this women's revolution, this is really thin. This is really thin. And where have the women been to been brought up to the roster? To get the quote-unquote main call-up. Bianca Belair was recently called up, and then she disappeared, and now she's back again. Shayna Baszler, who was recently called up, still, it seems like WWE does not get her, does not understand her. That's what they say. And she's been taken off stage, taken off screen, put back on screen, taken off, flippity flop. So what has happened 5 years later? The women's evolution. What seemed to have so much potential, so much legs, has since died in a slow death. There was talk that the main person responsible for WWE being so strict now, as far as wearing masks and getting testing, was Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens, finally had enough. Said that he did not feel safe and that he was going home. When asked what should be done, he said mask and fines. And lo and behold, here you go, you have masks and fines. I touched upon it on this, before. I really don't understand why WWE and Vince McMahon, why were they so lax on this? they maybe pretend that maybe they thought like it did not exist. Want to pretend that it did not exist? What? I mean, it exists. And Kevin Owens is someone that, if you listen to his social media, he makes so much damn sense with everything he talks about these issues. Like, he gets it. It's like, listen, even if you think wearing a mask is phony, baloney, it's nonsense, it's like whatever, just out of consideration, be a good human being for the people that are worried about you getting them sick. Just be a good human. There's talk about Kevin Owens to kind of have a backup plan. Apparently, they are ready to feud, depending on Rey Mysterio, to say if he signs up or not. You got to take it with a grain of salt with these dirt sheets and how they write everything. Some of it is BS. He might feud with Seth Rollins if Rey Mysterio doesn't sign, and then goes, well, he still might wrestle Seth Rollins anyway. like no crap, no crap, no kidding. Jeez, man. But whatever. There's Kevin Owens, apparently the voice of reason, and Kevin Owens, man, I love Kevin Owens. I really love when he was a heel. I think he plays the heel part best well. I think face is a little bit too, I don't know. It's not him. He had the best interactions on Twitter, where he really, I think, stayed in character and just went after people hard, and that's the beauty of being a face. Sometimes you don't even know if, you can't even figure out fact or fiction with that. That was pretty interesting, I think. Last thing that I want to kind of touch upon is a belt was brought back. Taz for AEW brought back the FTW, F the World Championship strap. Now you remember back then in the ECW days, why this title was, why Taz had this title. You understand it more. Back then, you understood it. There was a long history behind it. Long kind of path as to how it got to that point when he had the FTW championship. So now he brings this out and he crowns, he gives the FTW championship to Brian Cage. Again, I get it. This is pandemic. This is, post. I get it. It's a different time, different era. First time anyone is going through anything like this. But that significance of that title, you valued that title so much. You're going to give this championship, right? Like, think about it in storyline. To a guy that has really, in storyline, just really had a cup of coffee in AEW. So here comes Taz, this legend of lineage. And here's Brian Cage. Got the look, got everything down, but has had just a cup of coffee in AEW. So, win-loss record, just a few matches. Nothing really impressive. Impressive, but he only had a few matches. So, if I'm Taz, in storyline, again, just keeping this storyline, here's my title, which meant so much to me. I'm giving this kid a championship. I believe in him, but I've only seen him wins and losses, a few matches. What if he starts losing? He's going to embarrass himself. He's going to embarrass my FTW championship. Why is he crowned FTW championship? Why? After just a few matches and a few promos, yeah, this guy deserves a FTW championship. Now you know you're going to say, oh, you're overthinking it, blah, 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 blah. I mean, storyline stupidity-wise. Is this title even being defended? I mean, and why would you defend this title if you already have, if your roster, it's not a AEW championship sponsored. It's a belt that was part of in storyline in another organization by a wrestler that never wrestled in AEW because it wasn't around, and wrestled everywhere but so it just does not make any sense to me. Why would this guy be given a strap that meant so much by Taz after just a very small resume sample, and for a belt that's probably not even going to be defended? So I just don't get it. I don't understand it. I mean, I get it that you think you probably give this title to this guy because you think that he's a monster. Okay, but the monster doesn't need a championship. You could stress the fact that he's a monster. And even at that point, you're giving an FTW championship. Does all the audience even know what the FTW championship stands for? What its history is, that you need to introduce it? Why not build it up to a point where you unveil the FTW championship? Just my 2 cents on the matter. We're going to wrap it up. I hope all is well. Please check out both parts here of Clean Pin, and big things coming. Hope all is well.